But first,
we've all heard of doom
scrolling. Yeah, when you just keep looking at your bad news and your social media feed, even though it's depressing.
Yeah, and this won't come as a surprise because it can really impact our mental health. Makes sense, right? To find out how to cut it out and maybe reduce our social media overload, we're checking in with psychologist Dr. Laura Saunders. Dr. Saunders, how are you today?
Hello, friends, and happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. 1 week away from the Big Bird Day, and we're getting stressed out.
1 week away.
I'm looking at all these doom scrolls and these headline stress. Why is it such a big deal?
Well, remember, I mean, we're just coming off an election cycle, right? Last week was Election Day, and people were inundated with political, divisive ads, phone calls, news stories, everything becoming so sensationalized. And with, today's incessant news delivery cycle, probably about half of U.S. adults report that they get their news through social media. And we know that social media engages in a lot of clickbait. So highlighting negative or dramatic news stories, getting you to click on a title, and then boom, leading you down a rabbit hole of negative information that just creates this saturation.
And how has the social media overload gotten worse? I mean, you were talking about all these negative ads with political season upon us, but it's not even just Facebook or Twitter. There's so many different platforms, right?
Yes, and I think, honestly, I like to blame everything on COVID. So it started with COVID, right? If you remember in those beginning days and weeks and even months of COVID, we were getting new pieces of dramatic information every day. So that's, I think, really kind of primed people. And then, that was coming off of an election, a highly divisive election. There's climate change, there's racial injustice, so there's mass shootings. I mean, the list goes on. So I think we really need to be more careful with this doom scrolling because it's just headline after headline that is bringing us bad news.
All right, so how do we know, and what do we do? Do we just limit ourselves to an hour or 2 hours? Do we put time limitations on our scrolling, or just ignore the bad news and just jump ahead?
So I think it starts with turning off our smartphone news notifications. I just did this yesterday. I was getting all these prompts, and I'm like, why am I getting these prompts? Well, first of all, it's because I didn't know how to turn them off, and then I figured it out. So I'm not getting those prompts anymore about CNN has a new story or Yahoo has a story. So turn off your smartphone news notifications. Set a timer for about 15 minutes or less when you're checking social media so you don't go down that rabbit hole of, getting lost in it. And try to set some strict policies for no phones or no social media during meals, and have other tech-free periods during the day.
I actually set I set a restriction on my phone.
Do you?
Yep. So I have 15 minutes every hour to scroll on social media, and we have a no phones rule at the table. And we do not pick up our phones around our kids.
Okay, that's a good idea.
It's hard, but we really try. And Dr. Saunders, what can you do to help? Are people actually going to therapists and psychologists for this?
I think this is often just a compounding factor, maybe underlying vulnerability. I really worry about this with our teens and young adults because they don't have as much life experience to offset the fact that, okay, yes, we're in a stressful time right now, but I can remember less stressful times as an adult. But our young adults, I mean, they've been inundated with this for 3 years now. So I get more worried about them because they don't have as much ability to have perspective on the fact that life is not all about dooms.
I love the fact that you have to alter your practice to accommodate for things that were not even in existence 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Not even 5 years ago.
Not
so
even
yes,
5 years
we
ago.
have to make changes. And if you're someone that wants to do something, because sometimes I say move a muscle, change your mood, tie your anxiety with action. Donate time or donate money to a cause, do some volunteer work, do something for your local church or synagogue. Do something more active if that helps you relieve your anxiety and not believe that the world is falling apart.
All right.
And post it on social media if you have to go on and put some good stuff out there, right?
Absolutely.
All right, psychologist and director of the Hartford Healthcare Center for Gender Health, Dr. Laura Saunders, thanks so much for joining us and for all this information.
Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.